Hello, everyone, and welcome to my Ascension Messages. My name is Bobbie Richardson, and I will be your guide for today. Today, we're going to bring in Nova. Now, Nova is an entity that came to me in a dream about 3 weeks ago. He asked if he could help me and put out his hand. And at the time, I said no, I just wanted to hold off and get used to his energy and figure out whether it was right for me. And he respected that. And then a few days later, kept showing up in my head and my mind. And I ended up, when that happens, I usually get this inspiration to draw a picture. So I did this Photoshop picture of him. He was in a pod that was quite close to his body. There was a connection to the back of his head that went to the ship. And it was just a single, like, being pod thing. Very colorful, primary colors mainly. So yeah, this is the image that I drew, and we will channel him through. I got some more information about him later on. He wanted to be called Nova, and just so happened that there is a nova, supernova happening out in space at the moment. A supernova is when a star gets to the end of its life and it shoots out a lot of energy. And so that star is going to be exploding out in space the last half of this year, which is kind of cool that he wanted to be called Nova, because it means the birth of something new, and he was like a new star on my show. So before we get into his channel messages, just want to also bring up, today's the day that I'm starting my masterclasses again. If you want to be involved in those masterclasses, the link will be down below. They come with 4 amazing videos, all to do with clearing the mind, balancing the mind with the soul's connection again, opening up the pineal gland, and telepathy, learning telepathy and channeling. All the advice that my guides gave me throughout the years, and experiences that I've had with elders that held my hand and talked to me telepathically and so forth. So it just kind of inspires humanity into realizing that they have more power within them. And once we get rid of these guys, right, we don't have to be controlled by anything outside of us. We have it all within us. If it's outside of us, it's all within us. Any case, they also come with 5 telepathy games and 4 chances to Zoom call with me, just to go over some things. You don't have to attend all 4 Zoom calls if you don't want to. And you have about around 1.5 to 2 months to go through all of that package. Yeah, so if you are interested, the links are down below to book that. Let's get into some channeling from Nova as I open that up with him. He's quite a jovial, very light-hearted entity. He's not as serious as what this picture looks. The feeling that I get from him is more of a, and I called him a hen. It's really an it. It's not, I don't know whether it's a him and it or whatever. It doesn't matter. But it's just easier to say him. But a really jovial kind of a feeling, high vibe feeling from him, and just makes me feel fairly light within myself when I connect with him. He's also got a serious side, but he likes to have serious fun. And he actually suggested that humanity needs to bring that more into their reality, into the day-to-day reality as well for themselves, because we get so serious and so caught up on what's wrong, what's right, what did I do wrong, what did I do right, and literally that focus in on those problems create the problems again. But when you come from it as a humorous kind of an energy, it's kind of made light of, and the focus can be dropped easier, so that you can keep on quickly move into the next moment. So that's why in the higher frequencies, most of the beings, they of course, there are serious beings, but they're always living specifically in the moment. And then there are those that, they just don't take life so seriously. Let's put it that way. So I think it's important to bring that up because it's how they move in these higher frequencies. Let's see if he's got any sort of information that he wants to bring through at the moment for humanity's consciousness and helping guide them. I have suggested to him that I would love to talk to him about his ship and the ships that are out there, because there's so many vast arrays of ships out there. So as he comes in, what happens is he'll give me a message and then I turn that into words so I can speak it to you. I don't become him. I'm not a medium. I can just have this kind of channeling, clear communication with him. And that's how that works. And he's also teaching me how to see the difference between my higher self and when he comes in, because I automatically go into my higher self when I'm channeling, which holds a lot of information from my soul's lineage. And then these beings also come in and they give me their understandings of things as well. That doesn't say that every single being out there knows absolutely everything, because there is just trillions of different truths, because it is a plateau of unlimited experiences out there, unlimited possibilities out there. And it's kind of when one being has a sort of a certain environment that they've been brought into or born into, that environment does shift and change how they look, who they are, how they express themselves, how they interact, just the same as humanity. We can be born into a program, but then the environment also has an impact on that program as well. And that's why it's really important to step out of the environment that was keeping us bound and keeping us held. There's actually a lot more color, a lot more leisure time when we step into the higher frequencies, when we step out of that limited reality that's kept us in a victimized situation. So when we're starting to move into these higher frequencies, our perception of Earth, Mother Earth, the animals, everything around us becomes more clearer and more empathic. So we can then start to gather a lot more information on how to work with what's conducively around us and what's wanting to help us. There is always something there that will align with the nurturing of humanity. And if we're in the higher love frequencies, that's an absolute, because the reflection is that love, and love keeps us nurtured on this planet. So in these high, when we flip over to out of the old program and into the new one, which is just really a flip within ourselves of how we're perceiving our world, that we see much more power in our connection to our soul and ourselves. He wanted to bring some of that up because that's literally where he resides, in those higher frequencies. It's not to say that you don't use, the substance, the material substance outside of you to house and protect your body, but you can also move on this planet with holding the environment that you need for your body as you move on this planet. So you become the environment that's needed through love of self and the power and the magnificence of who you are. But it's a humbled love. It's a humbled power. It's not a power of trying to push everyone else down so that you look good. That's an outside power. This is an inner power that they come into. And he was bringing up that, like, our environment would be one way and how we perceive the world. And when we go through a shift, we are learning to change up how we view ourselves, which then changes up how we view the environment, and then we become more connected to it, which gives us a greater awareness and understanding in these higher frequencies of how to work with the environment. And it changes everything, because even the way we see things becomes much more clearer. The way we hear things becomes much more clear. So we can hear more frequencies, we can see more colors. It literally opens up that pineal gland, and that gives us a whole new dimension that we can play in, playground that we can play in, where a lot of the limited programs would shut all of that down and call somebody crazy because it wasn't fitting into the scenario that was built on a lack from the people that was building it, and their lack kept on trying to push down the power of humanity. Humanity's power is a force to be reckoned with once we come into alignment and move into these higher frequencies. We can, as the proverb says, literally shift mountains. So in that respect, with the power of who we are, coming from that feminine power and meeting the masculine power, we can create marvelous things with Mother Earth, and she's looking forward to it. Mother Earth's looking forward to it as well. So Nova wanted to bring that up because where he comes from is a totally different environment, but he is aware of the circumstances of what humanity is going through, and to share some of the information that he has. He can share it, but you might not completely understand it yet, he's saying. So if he shares it with me, and it's always shared through a feeling, if I don't understand it, then I could get it wrong. And that was to do with his ship. Biomechanical was one of the words that came up, where his movements, I don't even know anything about science, but I'm just relaying what I'm feeling into now of what he's telling me. Not a scientist at all, haven't read anything about biomechanics, don't even know what it means really. But he's saying it's where the movement of the body also interacts with the ship. The ship becomes part of the external body. That's why it's kind of like a cap that's placed over the back of their heads, and kind of like he would suggest something in the form of the back of his head is where connection to the pineal gland, his pineal gland would be, but it's different. And that gives him access to his environment more. Very similar to Avatar when they had the hair that went into the mane of the beast that they would ride, and they had a connection, and then all of a sudden the beast woke up and become more aware with that connection of the being on them as well. And so they had this interaction of becoming the transport, similar to that with the ship. So the ship is made up of material from his home world, but it's also brought alive. He said it's brought alive by this connection to them individually, and the bigger ships are a little bit different. So that's the pod that he was in. Which, yeah, that kind of feels right. He's like saying it's almost like it's not just thoughts, it's also movements of their body that will move the ship as well, and thoughts. But he says it even goes beyond thoughts for them. There is something beyond thoughts. We could only access that once we learn to open up our pineal gland. There is an interaction with the outside environment that they have mastered, and humanity's still got to go through some of those lessons of finding balance within oneself and opening up the pineal gland. And then he said there's another level of balance that happens there as well. So that it's something that we just don't gain knowledge from, but we actually become part of our external reality as well, where we can literally create wormholes within our own psyche of moving through space as that, projecting ourselves on other planets. There is so much more that can be attained when we get into these higher frequencies, and that is another form of transport. Although your physical body might still be here in the physical world, you feel like you are on this other planet through this vortex within you, and it feels very real when you are there. It's not like an imagination where it's just a story kind of flying past you like a TV screen or anything. You are actually involved, and the people or the beings on the other planets can actually interact with you, and you can gain wisdom, and then you come back. And he is bringing me to, and I have brought this up before, the crop circles. Some of those crop circles are actual pattern for the pineal gland to resonate in the somatics of the pineal gland's crystals within inside. It will shake and resonate to that pattern, that frequency, with the release of the serotonin and melatonin, and turning that into DMT. Then particles switch those little crystals into light, so that you can have these vortexes that you go through. And for you, it will be an individual vortex that's aligned with you because of where your soul's been before this life. So if you were, say, for instance, someone coming from Arcturus, then you would have more likely to have that it's not an understanding, it's just a natural connection to the Arcturus vibration. And so then you can have that interaction once you find balance within yourself, raising your level into a higher love frequency, coming into central, into the moment, opening up the pineal gland, having the experience of you with your intention already focused in on going through that portal with the vibration or meet of that, whether it's coming from an external sound or whether it's coming from you humming or chanting or breathing in a certain way, and it will go into being able to travel into these other planets. So that's another way of traveling, he says. But it's also fun to move through space in a external pod or something, or a mothership, because it's like an adventure, right? And they can move extremely. It's kind of, it goes, how fast they can move is literally goes with how aware or awake the beings are on the actual ship. So for instance, humanity and how fast they can only go to that certain speed of a rocket, where it just isn't a material thing, a material, dumping of material fuel and stuff as it moves through the atmosphere, but there's no psychic ability connected to the rocket, because there is no psychic ability that humanity was had the advantage of understanding in the times where the rockets were produced. So now that we're moving into higher frequencies, we will start to realize that we actually have these abilities within our pineal gland to move, at least astral travel, to these other places, which gives us a different connection to our material world when we start to build the material world in conjunction with the vibration of the human body and the human mind and the human soul and heart. It just all comes in together as one understanding of what we are building. Is we are asking the frequency of what we're building to match our frequency of knowing from the soul's perspective as well as the physical's perspective. So that's really interesting that he's bringing that up. because the way that they move, they like to go into these shits because it's more fun, and they like to have adventures and have fun with their life. So even though they have the ability or capability, like he is now, to just tap in with me and then give me some information so that I can relay it to you, and he could also, if need be, materialize. But they would never do that until humanity has gone through this quickening. There's a quickening that we're going through now before this contact has to be made. We are only going to be making physical contact unless it was stipulated in the soul's, as a soul's mission to be contacted so that it can help the awakening of humanity. But that contact is more to be accessible on the other side of the proverbial letting go of the program, and the mess that we've got ourselves into, being victimized and seeing ourselves as an equal partake or equal party to those beings that we are going to have contact with. If we were coming from a victimized situation of feeling powerless, then that's when the problems can start, where an attack can happen, because fear will always be produced from someone that feels powerless. So the power that we're looking for now is an inner power, an inner understanding that nothing is more or less than our power, whether it be the worst kind of enemy or the most benevolent being. It's all central to the point that we're all source energy going on a journey, and then that is the interaction that we need to come at to be able to converse with them in the future. So that's really cool that he's at least shared some of that with about his ship, and just asking whether there's any more information he can give me about that. That is an actual ship that I saw in my dream. That is an actual pod. It's not a mothership, or it was just a pod. There is specific entities or beings that will want to work with specific people, and you who are watching would have your own. You will call them guides, but they're just saying it's a soul companion, and understanding from a soul's level that you've already met in a past life. So that's another way of putting guides. And it doesn't have to be angelic. It could be anything, any sort of form of entity or being that's of higher frequency, obviously. The ones that are in the mixed up world of the lack of frequencies, or the lower frequencies, the ones that are trying to control, they will just automatically wake you up by trying to control you. So there's two ways out of that. There's either you get sucked into their vortex and you become the victim to their story and they become the perpetrator, and you go further down that path, or you use what the power that they've met you at, and seeing the power within yourself as becoming just as equal, then it none avoids their power, and they understand they've got nothing on you because you're not afraid of them anymore. It's in a lot of the fairy tales as well, with Alice in Wonderland and the Jabberwocky and so forth. So that I know he says, I know we do bring this sort of stuff up a lot, but it's these specific lessons that humanity's going through at the moment that kind of need to be repeated over and over sometimes, because if it's not, then it'll just be a fleeting message that you might just forget about, and it's just too important to forget about, and keep on reminding ourselves where we're actually going. They are the compass. Like, he is a compass for us to move into these higher frequencies and interact with so many more beings. So I keep on seeing him taking off in his pod and then moving closer to Earth so that he could have interaction with me. But he says he didn't have, he can interact with me wherever, from wherever, because in the loop of time and space construct is a quantum entanglement where everything is joined just through the thought anyways. And that's another reason why I said he kept putting his face in my head until I drew the picture, because now when I want to tap into him, being that it's a new being, I can see the picture, the image. The elementals did that with me as well. And when I started interacting with them, I couldn't get them out of my head. And the only way I could do it is to draw a picture. So I did. And it just helps, because then you can let it go and you can go, I can always see that picture of that image again. And it will just bring me into alignment with that being. So he's quite happy too, if anyone's out there that wants to interact with him and get some information and that sort of stuff. This is not a for one person wisdom thing, but he came to me first to break the ice, I suppose. So it's up to you guys if you want to, use the image that I put up, or ask for him to meet you in a dream too, or ask for your guides. Yeah, he's saying there, more than likely, though, he would suggest that you keep your soul open for what's conducive to your soul's path and who you've already met in your past lives, what your soul's met. Yeah, so he's really suggesting that you connect to who you are and ask for those souls, especially if you're just starting this journey, to ask for those souls to connect to you that are your soul companions, and see what comes up. Take note of your dreams. The dream world and the physical world are starting to merge. So we are going to have when that merges, we have a lot more premonitions. I know I had one last night. I actually, in my dream, got in a car and drove backwards through somebody's hedge into their property. And then when I was driving around this morning, here on the main road was this car had backed into, just driven into somebody's property, and it was back first. And I'm like, you're going to be kidding me. I literally dreamed that last night. And they also took me to a very strange place on the map, which I didn't even know existed as a country. And it does. So anyway, that's another story. But I just wanted to bring that up, like the dream world and the external world. Nova's saying the veil is thinning. And that's so that we can have these premonition dreams, and also so that we can interact with those people, beings that have passed over. They would only interact through the dream world. But if we have that veil thinning, where we're not just focused on the material world, but we're also interacting with our spiritual world, our etheric world, then eventually those that have passed can appear in front of you, and you can have a discussion with them, and they become guides and so forth as well, interacting with you in specific times that are needed in this physical plane, or whether even if they need to observe or watch you as you go through clearing and so forth. So there's some important thinning of the veils that's happening at the moment as well. And that's also allowing the contact as well with them too. But he's saying one of the most important lessons he wants to bring up now is to have more fun in this world. We've really got to stop with the seriousness. It's seriously getting us entangled into judgment and judging ourselves and holding on to issues that don't need to be held on to. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody does something wrong every now and then. Laugh it off, get over it. You're having a journey where mistakes are made for a purpose of understanding what not to do and what to do next, but not to hold on to it till you feel so guilty that it just keeps boomeranging back on you. So that's another reason why you're saying be more jovial with your life as you go along. Don't take yourself so seriously. It's okay. Life is meant to be a lot more fun, and I know that he's saying I know that it's really, really tense at the moment because we are literally getting squeezed through the eye of the needle, and like it's almost like as you're watching it being squeezed through, it's like everything that's not resonating with love is spitting out, and because it's getting squeezed, it's like it's squeezing out of the sponge as it goes through the eye of a needle. And then that is showing up and oh my God, I had that. I've been holding on to that. I've been holding on to that. But when you see it outside of you, in other words, something else might come in, the story might come back up for you again. See it for what it is. See it as a light-hearted story. Don't see it as a serious story anymore. Just let it go, let it flow. Say, I understand now where I wasn't in love with who I truly am as a whole being. And so you can move through that so-called proverbial eye of the needle. And then when we pop out the other end, they will be waiting for us eventually, he says. So yeah, very cool and very exciting. Yeah. Okay, guys, I think I'll leave it here for now until the next Nova update. Don't forget, I do live. I'll be channeling through my usual team, Cyanians and Pleiadians and Arcturians on a Tuesday. They kind of collectively come together in my mind and we just start to reel off a lot of information about the ascensions. Usually it's focused in on the ascension and how we can move through these new energies. And then on Thursday, I definitely do my tarot because I love dabbling in the tarot. It's a fun thing, right? And I don't know what that title will be yet, but look out for that on my community notice board. Don't forget the masterclasses are going up tomorrow, and so you can become part of my team in the masterclasses. Yeah, I think that's it. So until next time, bye.